Hey, my name is Rowan Smith and I want to welcome you to the Training for Trekking podcast. Now, this is the world's very first podcast which is entirely dedicated to helping you train, prepare and conquer your upcoming hike, trek or mountain adventure. So once a week, I'm going to be giving you quality and practical information on the subjects of physical preparation for trekking, dealing with altitude and nutrition on the trail, so you can know everything you need to be doing to have the best chance of a safe, enjoyable and successful adventure. So now you know what you're in for. Let's get into today's episode. Okay, hello guys. Today we are talking through mindset strategies when you're recovering from an injury. Now, to kick things off, we all know that injuries absolutely suck. So whether it's a sprained ankle, whether it's a broken leg, whether you've thrown out your back, whether you've gotten shoulder surgery or whatever it may be, having some type of major incident or major injury or major recovery process in whatever it may be, it absolutely sucks. And it's really, really, really easy to get down in the dumps, to really, really struggle and just to almost get a little bit negative because these things are massive limiters. We are probably in pain. We're probably limited from doing things we enjoy. We obviously can't get out hiking. We might not be able to train. And, all these things that do add a sort of positive aspect to our life, it can turn into a bit of a struggle. So today we're going to be talking through a few little areas that, you might be able to work with if you are going through an injury recovery or a significant injury recovery, or if you are coming back from some type of surgery, or if you are coming back from an illness or whatever it may be, something that is holding you back from actually hiking, something that's getting in the way of that, and talking you through a few things you may be able to focus on to sort of keep things moving forward, both mentally and physically, and work through that. So to start with, if you do find yourself in this situation, there's typically two things that I would recommend starting with. Now, number one is doing a little bit of goal setting for yourself, which can be really, really tough to do in this situation, but is so worthwhile. And I completely understand it may be a bit rough trying to be optimistic and trying to be positive when you're in the midst of this, but if you can force yourself to do this, take the time to do this and go through the process, it can be super beneficial. Now, really, there's two things that I typically recommend setting goals for specifically, and we'll talk a little bit more about some others further down the line. But the first things you want to have a think about is, number one, what do you want to do once you're out of this injury situation, and once you're feeling more or less back to normal, and once you're feeling good? What are the things on your list that you want to do? Now, if you're listening to this, you're obviously a hiker, so maybe list down some particular hiking goals that you want to do. Maybe a big trek, maybe an overnight hike, maybe your first long day hike or whatever it may be. And list down a bunch of things and just start having a little bit of idea about planning them. They may be 6 months out, 12 months out, 24 months out, depending on whatever you're going through. But having some things that you really do want to aim for can go an absolute long way. And I'd highly recommend having to think about that and setting some longer term goals on that front. Now, alongside that, I'd also very much recommend setting some more shorter term goals and particular timelines that you want to hit in your recovery. So, in 2 months' time, you want to be able to go out maybe your first hike, or 3 months' time, maybe go out on, your first overnight, or again, it's going to be completely different for every person's situation, but setting yourself some timelines that you want to sort of aim for. Now, these obviously aren't going to be set in stone, because injuries and recovery, there's so many factors that go into it. But again, having particular timelines to aim for and to focus on, and really to break up these longer term things into shorter chunks of 4 weeks, 8 weeks, 12 weeks, whatever weeks at a time, can be super positive. Now, in all honesty, you're probably going to need to work with either your physio, your physical therapist, your surgeon, or whoever your healthcare professional is to figure out these timelines and these rough timelines, because just giving yourself random numbers and just saying, I hope to be ready for this at this time, and then you're completely off, that's going to sort of have the negative effect. So maybe have a serious conversation with your surgeon or with your physical therapist or whoever you're working with and just say, look, can we sit down and figure out some rough timelines of what I want to be aiming for? And if you do have that conversation, most likely they will help you, and it can be a really positive thing. So that's your goal setting. Set some longer term goals, set some recovery goals and timelines, and that can be super positive. Now, alongside that, the other thing that I'd highly recommend you having to think about and taking some action on is finding yourself a bit of a support team and people that you can lean on, either professionally or socially, to help you through this process. to help sort of talk, to help bounce ideas off, and just to help you when things, go up and down. Now, seeing we're specifically talking about mindset here, hopefully you should already have a physio or physical therapist or a surgeon or whatever on your court. But around that, you may also build that out with, maybe a friend or a close family member who, you can actually talk through everything you're going through. If you have a partner, if you have a close friend, if you've got a brother or sister or mum or dad or whatever it may be, and someone you can just share like the goals that you're aiming for, share your frustrations with, talk through things when they do come up, because all too often when we're going through a big recovery process, it can feel like we're a little bit alone. It can feel like, no one sort of knows where we're at. And just the pure act of talking through things and knowing you got someone in your corner can go a long, long way. Now, alongside that, both is great, but one or the other is also okay, is finding sort of community of like-minded people who may have experienced something similar. They may be going through similar experiences. They may have done it in the past or whatever it may be. Now, one of the big things I'm a massive fan on when it comes to the Summit Strength programs, which we put together, is we've found a really great community of hikers who are working through those programs, where we all sort of support each other. And a lot of people are going through similar issues or gone through major incidents in the past. And a lot of people find support through that. Now, in your situation, it might be a case of, finding a support group in your local area, maybe finding, an online forum, maybe just finding somewhere where there is a community of like-minded people who you can bounce off each other. Now, this obviously isn't a place to find medical advice or find, particular advice around that, but it's purely just to find a community of people that can support you, mentally through this process. And then finally, and definitely not the least, is if you are going through this, it can be very, very easy to get a little bit like bleak, to get a little bit low and to really, really struggle through things. And if it is a long-term thing, this can be something that becomes pretty serious. So in this situation, if you're aware that maybe things are creeping away from me, or maybe I'm getting a bit dark, or maybe whatever may be going on, I am struggling, I just need someone to talk to, reach out to a professional. Get someone on your team that you can talk to, not just physically with your physical, therapy or physio, but get someone for the mental side of things. Seek out a health professional to talk to on that front, because, there's definitely worthwhile if you're struggling. So set yourself some goals, find yourself a support team. They're the first places that you want to start. Now, once you've figured that out, then we can essentially get to work and get positive and start moving forward. Now, as a whole, as a general overview with this, essentially when we're looking at going through these process, we want to do a number of actions. That's number one, going to set ourselves up for a number of wins. Now, when we're in the midst of recovery, in the midst of injury, everything can feel negative. So many things can be limited. It can be really, really easy. And essentially what we want to do is just set yourself up and set lots of little targets and lots of things that we can do where we can win at it. We can feel positive. We can feel like we're moving forward, even if our injury is holding us back. So first of all, we want to set ourselves up for some wins. Alongside that, we also do want to find a bit of fun, in the sense that, when we're going through this stuff, even if you're the most determined person in the world with your recovery and doing all the right things, it can be very, very easy to forget about the fun factor. It's very, very easy to forget about fun in our lives, and it does go a long, long way in this process. And then finally, we also want to be thinking about being productive during this time. So not just sort of waiting for things to get better and feeling passive, but we want to be active. We want to be productive, moving things forward, not just for your injury or your recovery, but also for your life in general. So essentially, how do we do that? The next things are some recommendations I often talk with my clients when they're going through something like this. Some of them may help for you, some of them may not, but it's definitely something worthwhile considering if you're in this situation. Now, first of all, is you want to sort of have a think about, it can be really beneficial, is breaking up your training and planning out your training to work around your particular injury. Now, unless you're going through back surgery or something like that, more than likely you can probably find some type of training around whatever issues you're dealing with. So, for example, two typical examples of clients that I'm working with at the moment. One client recently broke her ankle on a bit of slippery surface on the trail. So she's out of commission, she's in a cast, she can't hike, and she can't do anything on her lower body. But essentially she's made a decision that she's going to work on her upper body and she's going to work on her core until she can get out of that cast and start slowly building that up. So that's where she's focusing. On the other side of things, I've got a client who's recently just had shoulder surgery for a long-term shoulder issue. She can't do anything with her upper body. So she's focusing on things on her legs a little bit of a core to help that moving that forward. And 9 times out of 10, when you are going through an injury, there are going to be things that you can work around and you can improve even when you're limited. And you want to have a think about these things. Now, on top of that, beyond just saying, okay, I'm just going to work on upper body strength or I'm just going to work on lower body strength, it is probably worthwhile setting yourself a performance goal or two. So something in particular with your upper body or something in particular with your lower body where you want to aim towards and see the progress. So you can see those wins as you're moving towards that. And you can feel like you are moving forward and being positive during this time. Now, for upper body goals, it might be a case of, maybe you want to do your first push-up, or maybe you want to do your first pull-up, or maybe you set yourself the goal of doing 10 or 20 of these things. For a lower body goal, it might be a case of, okay, I want to learn how to do a pistol squat, or I want to do, 20 step downs and be comfortable with that, or whatever it may be. But just have a think, what are some particular exercises or particular challenges for whatever you're working on? And can you put a little target that you want to aim towards? And that in itself can go a long, long way. Now, training around injury, we can talk about that for ages and ages, but that's just a general overview. Other things you may potentially want to work on, which can sort of keep you moving forward during this time and find some positivity, be productive during this time, is working on sort of peripheral factors, which can help your training, which can help your hiking, help your general health in general. So things that's not training related, but other factors that do go into these things. Now, for example, a few areas you may consider is, okay, sleep. Sleep often gets neglected, overlooked with this type of stuff, but sleep is so important for our mental health, for our training, for our recovery, for, so many different things. So during this time, maybe you might want to focus on sleep and just see a few different bits and pieces to help your sleep. It might be a case of saying, I'm going to get, a little bit extra sleep each night, or I'm going to set myself a bedtime, or I'm going to stop looking at blue lights 60 minutes before bed, or I'm going to try meditation before bed, or whatever it may be. But maybe sort of honing into that and focusing on your sleep and seeing if you can come up with a few areas which may help with that. Then, once you're out of your injury and out of your recovery and you're training again, you can keep this moving forward and that positivity will greatly, greatly benefit you. Or another thing, a classic example is working on nutritional changes. This is a time where you can work on slight changes to nutrition. You can hone in certain areas. You can sort of focus on certain things to get that positive and moving forward. Or it might be stress reduction. Or it might be a whole range of other things that may peripherally help with your training, help with your recovery, and help with your hiking, which you can focus on this time. So have a think about that. What are the other areas that may potentially help that you can focus on? Now, alongside that is, as I said before, is finding some type of fun and some type of inspiration during this time, something that's going to give you those feelings of goodness, those feelings of fun, that happiness and enjoyment, even amongst all the bleakness of recovering from injury. So it might be a case of, maybe there's a skill, something you've always wanted to learn, and now is the time. Maybe you want to learn a musical instrument, or learn a new language, or learn how to paint, or learn how to sing, or learn how to draw, or whatever it may be. Go on to YouTube, look at a few lessons, download an online course, get a tutor, whatever it may be. Maybe now is the time when you are limited, you can do that. And then you can look back on this recovery time and like, you know what? This is really productive. I can't believe I did that. I've been wanting to do that for years, and that can be so beneficial. Or it might be a case of picking up a hobby that you haven't done for ages. Maybe knitting gives you pleasure. Maybe reading gives you pleasure. Maybe whatever, an old hobby that something gives you fun. Maybe it's going out and exploring. You might not be able to explore in your hiking, but it might be doing, four-wheel drive trips, or it might be doing other things that you can get a little bit of sense of adventure, or whatever it may be. But have a think about, where can you find a bit of fun in your life? Now, obviously there's so much more that can go into this. There's so much more you could sort of be thinking about during this time. But in all honesty, I feel like those are some really solid points to work. And there's directly points I've pulled from, work we have done with some of our clients who've gone through a major injury and they're in the midst of all their recovery. Start off with a goal setting. Get yourself a good support team. Figure out your training. Work on peripheral factors and find some fun. Put those things together and it really can go a long way for your mindset during this time and for, everything else when you actually do get out of this, when you do get back on the trail, when you do get back in a normal life, and it really can go a long way. So I really do hope you've enjoyed today's episode. I really do hope you never have need of these particular tips and you never have to deal with a major injury or incident. But if you do find yourself in this situation, or if you're in this situation right now, I really do hope this process can help you move forward, can give you a bit of extra positivity, and can, help during this time. So if you do have any questions about this, if you have any extra ideas, you want me to expand on anything or anything like that, absolutely, as always, come and find me in the Training for Hiking and Trekking Facebook group. Now, inside that group, I'm always happy to expand on these episodes, throw around ideas with people, and that can also be a great community of like-minded people, as I said before, because we're all hikers in there, we're all interested in training, and a lot of people probably gone through something like this before. So if you do want to come find it, that's the Training for Hiking and Trekking Facebook group. I'll leave a link in the show notes below. So thank you so much for listening today. Hope you have a lovely day, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye.